Welcome to the Uncommon Living Podcast, where we host dialogues of human resilience. I'm Thomas Seeger. I'm an associate professor in the School of Sustainable Engineering at Arizona State University and the CEO of the Morozko Forge Ice Bath Company. My guest today is Chef Alex Belew. Before Chef Belew won season 21 of Hell's Kitchen, he taught culinary arts at a high school in Tennessee. You might soon know him better as the frontman to the country rock band Reckless Eden, but in this episode, we talk about the foods that warm you up and would go well with ice bath, about what children need to know about preparing food and understanding the food they eat, and the way that our current agricultural policies are organized around corporate profits instead of the health and well-being of our citizens. Chef Alex Belew, you're coming to me
Hello.
from your kitchen.
I am. That's where I do all my Zoom conferences. It just seems to make sense.
That's wonderful. I have a question for you.
Fire away.
Have you ever had an ice bath party where you invite your guests over and they all get into your ice bath in your backyard?
No, I don't have any friends that are that insane. And when I told my wife about this, she goes, "Who in the fuck would have an ice bath party?" I was like, Tom is the only person I know that would have an ice bath party.
You're darn right. You know, it's going to be Halloween. Like, your kids probably go out trick-or-treating, right?
Yeah, as do we. We just go as disgruntled parents.
That's not much of a stretch there, Alex.
No, it's cold. It's cold and rainy, and but the boys are having fun. They're both going as inflatable dinosaurs. So they have these gigantic costumes that have a fan inside that puffs up real big. They can't see out of the mask. They can't walk. They're bound to run into a few street lights. It should be wildly entertaining. I'm looking forward to it.
Halloween is my favorite holiday because when else do you go around, knock on your neighbor's door? You know, sometimes the only time I would see my neighbors is when I'm accompanying my little kids around and saying, "Hey, how's it going?" And then they give my kids candy and treats. I'm like, this is a great holiday. But of course, the candy would come home and I would limit myself to like a couple of Reese's peanut butter cups or something. I'm like, hey, it's a holiday. I'll just have a little bit of this, a little bit of that, right? That way the kids won't eat it. And that sets me up for 2 months of gluttony and like diabetes because no sooner are we done with the Halloween candy, but we go right into Thanksgiving, and pumpkin pie is my downfall. When you're done with Thanksgiving, then you got to get your faculty party and then your neighborhood party, and all the Christmas cookies are showing up. And you haven't even got to Christmas. By the time you're done recovering from Christmas, you got to drink your face off for New Year's Eve. It's no wonder people make New Year's resolutions to like get in the gym. And so I started thinking, how could I change this around? How could we be social, meet the neighbors, renew those relationships, and yet be healthy? Well, obviously, that's an ice bath party.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason they call it bulking season. I think it's because that's, you can rephrase it to a way where you're like, oh, I'm just getting bigger for the wintertime, and then I'll shred it during the spring. Well, it's because you're eating like crap. I mean, and there's some
I'm not a grizzly bear. I'm not going into hibernation.
Who was it? Tom Holland was doing an interview, and he said, Halloween goes against everything you're ever told as a child. Don't talk to strangers. Don't take food from strangers, except for this day. This day, go knock on that totally stranger's door whose house looks like a meth lab and hope they give you something without razor blades and fentanyl in it. It's,
right.
And what am I supposed to do? I'm going to bring it home and unwrap everything and look for needle pokes? Like, I'm not a physicist. I can't dissect a Snickers bar.
My mother did. My mother was like, we're inspecting every piece of candy. But as far as I know, there has never been a razor blade in an apple. I've never seen a story of a kid like injured in that respect. You know, I think
Yeah,
a lot of this
I'm
is
just
just
giving out free testosterone to everybody that walks into my house. Like you get one cc of
I'm
200
coming over.
mg protein. Oh, I'm getting jacked for Halloween. I mean, we let our kids have a few pieces, and then honestly, I think usually the next day we chuck it all. I know it's wasteful, but I don't want that stuff in my house. I don't want them eating it. I don't want to eat it. I don't eat. I eat like really well all day long. And then inevitably, midnight, 1 a.m., I wake up and I go raid the pantry or the fridge looking for some sort of sweet treat. And I don't like sweets, but like last night at 1 a.m., the nutrition store that we sell on my meal prep at, they have these like, well, they're cookies, but they're like half the calories of a crumble cookie. So they're like 300 calories, a little bit of protein. They're delicious. They're like the size of your face. And I, sure enough, 1 o'clock, 12:30, 1 o'clock this morning, I broke half of it off, took it back to bed. I'm laying in bed eating a cookie. And then I put my mouth tape back on and I go back to sleep. It's
And
a
what did your
terrible
wife
sight.
say about that?
She doesn't, I mean, she knows, but she's never caught me in the act. So
She knows now. We're putting it right up on YouTube, and she'll be like,
look,
"What?"
I mean, I try to chew very quietly. It's, you know, I'm
You
very
get a
much like
craving.
cognizant of
This cookie is so good. You just let the saliva do the work.
and I always fall right back asleep. It's a, you know,
Yep.
I don't know, it's some sort of weird genetic anomaly.
I don't think it's wasteful to throw the kids' candy out like a day or two after Halloween. The candy has done its job. There's a
Yeah,
ritual, and they've
yeah,
gone through it. They've had the experience and the memory, and the people who gave them, you know, like that Mr. Good bar or whatever the heck it was, had a good feeling from dropping it in their little bag. The candy has done its good job. Now get rid of it before it does a bad job. You know, I don't
yeah.
think that's wasteful.
The only person that should feel bad about it is the people that are giving out circus peanuts. Those people can all go to a special
What?
place. Those are terrible candy. Terrible candy.
Bit of honey? What the hell is that?
That's just an early appointment for a dentist office is what that is. It's
That's
going to rip out
right.
your whole molar when you chew on it. Like, why
I
is there
got to go
something black?
straight to the
That's your
orthodontist
cavity.
after that.
That's your filling. Your filling just got yanked out of your tooth.
You
Ridiculous.
couldn't break the bank open for some M&Ms? Come
I know.
on.
Peanut M&Ms. Come on, that is my favorite candy, but I don't
Of
ever let
course,
my wife
right?
eat it.
There's a
I don't
nut.
let her buy
Well,
it.
not really a nut. Well,
Probably
here's
not.
my question, Chef.
Fire
Let's
away.
say I find some of these crazy people that are like, I'm into it. I want to have the ice bath party. We're coming over. What should I feed them? Because I'm not going to give them M&Ms or candy or any of the Halloween. I'm not going to make Christmas cookies for my friends coming over for an ice bath. What should I make them?
Okay, my phone was connected to my computer for some reason. So you're in Phoenix. It's hotter than Satan's butthole there all the time. Also, I didn't feel like you don't want to get out of a cold plunge and immediately eat some sort of lasagna or mac and cheese. That's not
Mm-mm.
doesn't fit the vibe. So I was thinking more light, cool, and refreshing, but maybe some things with some zip to kind of wake you up. Shrimp cocktail. I know it sounds crazy, but if you make a cocktail sauce with like a ton of intense horseradish, that can kind of lighten it up. You could even marinate the shrimp, grill them, then chill them down and serve those with like some sort of super acidic yuzu aioli dipping sauce. You could do like a tuna tartar on a wonton with a wasabi mayo, a little bit of cilantro, some pickled red onions, a little bit of jalapeno in there. Again, it's a light bite. It's got protein. It's super crisp. But the flavors of the acid and the jalapeno will kind of light up your palate, and that'll feel like you're getting warmed up, but it's not a hot, heavy dish. Let's see
Alex, I
what
think
else.
you're on the right track. There's some good science behind what you're saying. Like intuitively,
Oh,
you're getting into the cold. And so you're saying, give them something, if the temperature isn't hot, give them something with the hot flavor, the wasabi, the
yeah.
horseradish. Did you know there are some foods that will activate your brown fat? even without thermogenesis, right? You eat the food. These are spicy peppers will activate your brown fat. They will create a thermogenic response inside your body. We call these foods hot, but not hot temperature. They're hot tasty, a hot pepper, for example. And they are because they warm up our brown fat. And the ones
Yeah.
that you just named, they fall into this category. There's another one, ginger. Ginger is a thermogenic food. What could we do at an ice bath party that incorporates some ginger?
I mean, golly, you could definitely marinate the shrimp in like garlic, ginger, lemongrass type of situation. You could make we could do like a watermelon feta ginger mint salad type of situation. Ginger's really good for your gut too, man. It's like crazy how nature provides a lot of things that we need. You could just do like little pickled ginger shots, honestly. Like just
I think you're on the right track with that. We could put ginger in the drink.
Yeah, you can get a little pickled ginger juice, make you a little gin and juice. Hey, but instead of gin, it's ginger and juice. I'll be here all week, folks. You can just Venmo me for all my dad jokes. It'd be great. Yeah, I think there's a lot of directions you could go. A good like a cold soba noodle salad with a ginger vinaigrette, ginger miso, that type of situation. Throw in some cold grilled tenderloin, like little chopped up tenderloin bits, almost like a filet tartar.
Yeah.
Grill it to rare, chill it down, fold that into your soba noodle salad, some sesame seeds, some soy sauce, some ginger. You got all the flavors hitting, and you're getting full. You're fueling your body after you've just tortured yourself for 3 or 4 minutes in the cold plunge. I mean, good food's not that hard to make. It's just people don't tend to make it. I don't know. It's weird.
So we're talking about some proteins, tuna, some steak tartar, that we could add some of these spices, wasabi, horseradish, ginger to warm people
peppers. Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we could add some.
A few years ago, I made a jalapeno ice cream to go on. I don't remember what I served it with, but it was so strange to eat something that was 0 degrees, but it was spicy at the same time. My brain was like, I don't know what's happening here, because it was cold but hot, but it worked. And things like that. If the capsaicin kind of fires up your brown fat and get your metabolism going, why not add things like that help you burn fat, activate brown fat, get your metabolism fired up? It's good for your gut. It just seems like the smart play.
Talk us through the jalapeno ice cream recipe, because if they're cold enough, or if they're crazy enough to get into the ice bath, they're going to be crazy enough to try the jalapeno ice cream.
Yeah, so all ice cream bases are essentially the same. It's eggs, milk, sugar, vanilla, whatever, and then you refrigerate your base overnight, and then you turn it in an ice cream machine or whatever you've got. Whatever flavors you want to add to ice cream, you add during the steeping process. So you heat up your milk, your cream, and then you put whatever flavor in that hot milk that you want for 20 to 45 minutes. The heat from the milk extracts the oils, aromas, and flavors from whatever you're steeping in there, much like making hot tea. You leave a tea bag in the water for 4 minutes, all the flavor has extracted from the tea leaves, and then you've got tea. Well, the same for ice cream. So like I made cinnamon toast crunch ice cream when I taught high school. I got the milk hot. I put in a box of cinnamon toast crunch ice cream, left it in there for 30 minutes, strained out the cereal, but then I had this milk that tasted like cinnamon toast crunch. Then I added a little bit of sugar and some eggs, and then I spun it in an ice cream machine, and hot damn, it was cinnamon toast crunch ice cream.
I bet they loved it.
So good. It was so good. I made like 30 different ice creams in a month, and I made a smoked herring. That was absolutely disgusting. I do not recommend
We don't
smoked fish is not a good ice cream base. Don't do it.
Let's talk about cinnamon. Cinnamon will improve your insulin sensitivity. That is, it will reduce the blood glucose spike. Now, that's not a reason to go eat a cinnamon roll with like glazed sugar all over it, but
Right.
it is a good reason to put cinnamon in your tea, for example, because you'll get a good insulin sensitivity boost out of the cinnamon. What can we do with cinnamon without loading it up with all the sugar that, usually goes with it if we want a little bit of that dessertness at our ice bath party?
Hmm. Cinnamon's one of those weird ingredients. It doesn't really exist in many American dishes unless it's a sweet dish. It's so warm. It doesn't really go with a lot of proteins. It doesn't, other than like sweet potatoes and squash, which have a ton of natural sugar inside of them. The cinnamon complements those sweet flavors and kind of brings that overall warm, earthy Thanksgiving, fall, winter vibes to it. You never walk into anybody's house in the summer and they're burning a cinnamon candle, right? It's just, you're like, it's hot as hell outside and it smells hot in here, but it's one of those warm flavors. So I'd have to give that some thought. I don't know.
I think
I
you
mean,
might be on the right track. If we're combining this with some of the fall vegetables that we're getting ready for, we're at the pumpkin spice season at Starbucks, for goodness sakes. But maybe we could make like a sweet potato croquette, something
yep.
that is wholesome, that has some fiber, fills you up a little bit, and the sugar is natural. You don't have to add a lot of sugar to a sweet potato, and people can eat it with their fingers and get some of that warm feeling of the fall while they're getting ready to get in their ice bath. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, grilled, steamed and then grilled sweet potatoes with a little dipping sauce. You could do sweet potato fries and then throw a little bit of cinnamon on those, and that gets in your system. Make that with like a spicy ketchup kind of a situation. You could get a sugar-free ketchup and you could add in some peppers to make it even spicier so that you've got the natural sweetness from the sweet potatoes, which is a counterbalance to the spice in the ketchup. So there's all kinds of ways you can go about it, but cinnamon, it's traditionally around here. It's like pumpkin pie, sweet potato pie, cinnamon rolls. You get into some cinnamon in meat with like some Mediterranean cuisines. Like you can put cinnamon in a braised lamb shank, and then you got cinnamon and star anise and allspice and clove. So you get those deep, warm, rich flavors. But if it's cinnamon's also one of those things where too much can absolutely destroy your palate. And then same with nutmeg. Like if you take too much nutmeg, it's actually a hallucinogenic, which pretty wild.
Now we're getting somewhere. We can do some
Tripping on
thermal
nutmeg.
contrast therapy, add the nutmeg, we'll get the spinnies in the backyard.
You posted something about micro dosing and cold plunging. So just eat you a whole nutmeg and then get in the ice bath, and you might just meet Jesus.
I wouldn't mind.
Lord, is that you?
I think you got it. Now you're making me hungry. The sweet potato fries cooked in duck fat or beef tallow, something like that. You sprinkle some cinnamon on there, and you got a sugar-free ketchup with a little of the spicy peppers. What was it you called it? The capsaicin?
Capsaicin. Yeah, capsaicin is what's in the seeds of like jalapenos, ghost peppers, habaneros. Those seeds contain all the oils, which is what has all the heat in it. So if you take a jalapeno and you de-seed it and you take that rib out that holds all the seeds, you're really effectively removing like 90% of the heat from a jalapeno or serrano. So if you want the flavor of a jalapeno without the heat from a jalapeno, you just take out the seeds and then dice it up and throw it into whatever risotto, dish, rice, soup, stew, whatever you want. And you get the flavor from the pepper, but not the intense heat.
So it's the capsaicin that really lights up our mouth and gives us the Scoville count, the scale of hotness.
Yeah, I did did you ever hear about the one chip challenge like 2 or 3 years ago?
I might have.
Well, they sold this one chip. It was about this big, and it was apparently the hottest chip in the world. And so you're supposed to eat it and then go 10 minutes without having anything to drink. And you eat it and your tongue turns black from all the peppers and oils and capsaicin that they put on the chip. It is the most uncomfortable thing I've ever done. I'm pretty sure I melted the plumbing the next morning at the hotel. I mean, it was I was doing jumping jacks. I was crying. Like everybody was, most people didn't make it past 2 or 3 minutes without having to drink some milk. It's insanity.
But they
So
didn't have an ice bath, so you never know.
no, no. And they were in LA, so it was warm, but yeah, no ice bath then.
That chip challenge I have not heard of, but don't they have like a YouTube series of people eating like progressively hotter and hotter foods until they puke?
Yeah, hot ones. It's the wings. It's with Sean. I think his name is Sean, but he interviews you while you are eating progressively hotter wings, and it's almost like truth serum in a way. Your brain is trying to deal with the intense heat that your body's experiencing while answering these honest questions, and it's really hard to lie when you're in that much pain. It's torture, but not Russian or water torture. It's like, I'm just going to slowly make your brain incapacitated to where you can only say the truth. And people wind up doing the dumbest stuff and saying that, but it's hilarious. I mean, it's just, I don't know. I enjoy heat, but I enjoy it if I can enjoy it. I don't want to just eat overly spicy food just because it's hot. Usually the hotter it gets, the less flavor it has. But I want to be able to taste all the flavors, because a lot of those peppers, they have natural sweetness and sugar inside of them. Like a habanero has some sweetness to it, but you don't get it because all of the capsaicin and heat and the Scoville unit is so high, your tongue is on fire. So you can't taste.
So it's overwhelming.
You've got sweet, salty, bitter, and sour on your tongue where you can taste it. But if you're punched in the mouth with that much heat, you don't get any other flavors. You're just concentrating on the heat.
Okay, so here's what we got for our guests without making them puke. We're talking about serving them warm foods, even the hot, spicy ones. So wasabi, horseradish, ginger, and the peppers that have capsaicin in them, capsaicin in them that will warm them up either before their ice bath or after their ice bath. And we're talking about using cinnamon, especially with a little sweetness, like the sweet potato fries cooked in the animal fat. Sprinkle the cinnamon over there, and then you can get a low sugar ketchup and put a little bit of that capsaicin pepper in there for some spiciness to contrast the sweet. This sounds like a wonderful party. Do you have any experience doing your ice bath after you eat?
Not directly after. Sometimes, like I didn't eat dinner last night. I had a protein shake, so I woke up at 5 this morning and I was hungry. So I ate at 6. But I did the ice bath at 8:30. So it was a 2.5 hour window between. Now, I will eat many times right after the cold plunge, because I find that I am really hungry right after I get out. Like, I mean, I'm fired up, but I usually take the boys to school, come home, cold plunge, and then go to the gym. And a lot of times right after I get out, I've got to eat something. I mean, my stomach is just in knots. I guess I'm just.
What do you
I don't
like
know how
to
many
have in
calories
that moment?
Yeah, I don't know that it burns a ton of calories, but something about it makes me incredibly hungry.
It clears your blood glucose right out of your system. So you get into the cold plunge, your glycogen stores in your liver are going to be depleted, because when you activate that fight or flight response, your liver is like, uh-oh, we need the blood sugar. Then you clear all that out, through thermogenesis, and you might be a little hypoglycemic. You might get to a level where your blood sugar is down to 70 or 75, and something in your body is saying, hey, if we're going to go work out, you got to give me something to work with. What do you snack on in that moment?
I mean, I usually eat a meal. Like I have, and I own a meal prep company, so I usually have meals in there. I try to stay away from like a lot of carbs before a workout. I try to eat carbs after the workout. So usually it's going to be like steak and eggs, yogurt. We do have like a cheeseburger bowl at my restaurant at the meal prep company. So it's about a cup of basmati rice with broccolini and then 6 ounces of ground beef. I throw some sweet and spicy pickles on there. And, it's 500 calories, is 45 grams of protein. I'll do that, and I'll usually eat it on the way to the gym and I'm good to go.
So that takes the edge off. And then you don't have any trouble with your workout when you got something in your tummy, because the blood's got to go to both your muscles and your stomach at the same time.
Yeah, I don't really, I mean, if it's protein heavy, it doesn't really make me tired. It kind of gives me more fuel. If it was a lot of carbs, if I ate, toast or oatmeal, I'd probably feel a little sluggish. But since it's usually protein dense, it just really gives me fuel. It doesn't feel like I'm dragging.
Then you go work out.
Or, yeah, pretty much.
I've done it both ways. I've done the ice bath before eating and the ice bath after eating, and I haven't noticed any ill effects from what they call postprandial ice bath. That was 2 Thanksgivings ago. Day after Thanksgiving, I ate a half a pumpkin pie, and it took me maybe 20 minutes, to have that food regret. Like, what did I just do? I hopped right in the ice bath. I peed on a keto stick. A couple of hours later, boom, I'm still in ketosis. The ice bath, because it will clear that excess glucose out of your bloodstream, and it will release fat. It will cause your white fat cells to release fat into your bloodstream so your mitochondria can start using it for thermogenesis. You will instantly stimulate endogenous ketone production when you get into the ice bath. And I'm only exaggerating a little bit when I say instantly. Your glucose reserves takes about 30 seconds to clear them out. Everything after 30 seconds, that thermogenesis is being fueled by fat. And because ketones are an intermediary product of fat metabolism, you're going to get ketone production just by getting in your ice bath, even if you had kind of a heavy carb meal. Now, there's a clinical study in rats that say it is physically possible to give rats enough fast-acting carbohydrates to overwhelm any cold exposure. So I'm not saying go totally nuts. Pumpkin pie isn't the most highest glycemic, index dessert that I could have eaten, but it's got a lot of glucose in there.
Yeah, a lot of sugar.
No problem. Yep.
Yeah. I've heard that after a heavy meal, a heavy carb meal, going for a 15 or 20-minute walk kind of helps the glucose work through your system and helps kind of your body process that heavy carb meal. Do you think a 3-minute ice bath would do the equivalent of a 15 to 20-minute walk?
I know it would. The 15, 20-minute postprandial walk is outstanding advice. It takes the edge off the glucose spike that you might otherwise experience after a carb-heavy meal. If you're already in ketosis and you're at like a 0-carb meal, hey, the walk is nice, but it's not got a blood glucose effect. A high protein meal can also spike your blood glucose, but it takes hours. This is a process called gluconeogenesis, where your body takes the amino acids and synthesizes new glucose. I've measured it in my diabetic son. And so when they say the postprandial walk helps you manage your insulin sensitivity, they're really talking about the people who are getting 60 or 70% of their caloric intake from carbohydrates, which is typical of the standard American diet. It applies to most people. It's so much. It's out of control. It's not you, Alex. Like, you're having, your bowl, you're having your meal prep, and you're going heavy protein so you can go work out. Maybe 30, 40%. If you've got the basmati rice in there, it's slower acting. And so
that's why we use basmati instead of jasmine.
But if you overdo it, if you do the Christmas cookies and you don't have the ice bath, go for a walk. Get yourself a few thousand steps. It's going to take the edge off of that blood glucose spike. And I just had Paul Reynolds. He's a Brigham Young University professor, and he was on the podcast talking about glycation. He says it is not the very fine LDL cholesterol particles that are associated with heart disease until they become glycated. When you experience a blood glucose spike, he calls it an excursion, the glucose will irreversibly attach itself to some of these very small LDL particles, and that is what causes them to agglomerate, create plaque in your arteries, and is associated with heart disease. This, for me, was mind-blowing, because if you're eating keto, your cholesterol levels will go up. And some physician might be out there and say, hey, you're going to keep this keto up? You got to get yourself on a statin. He's wrong. It's not the cholesterol itself. It's only when the cholesterol is combined with blood glucose spikes. So if you overdo it
Mm.
at a holiday party, going for a walk or getting into the ice bath is a really good way to bring your blood glucose back down so that you don't do harm to yourself. So you can recover some of that insulin sensitivity before your pancreas is called upon to crank out so much insulin that you're doing long-term harm to your body.
Mm. It's interesting that, all the new knowledge that we have on cholesterol is not the bad guy that they used to think it was. And I'm majority carnivore. I mean, I eat carbs, I eat pasta, I eat pizza, I eat that stuff, but I eat it in moderation. It's like
Yep.
once a month I'll have a pizza. I love sandwiches, but I just can't, like, I feel so bad after I eat a huge, like, Jersey Mike's sandwich, but I love it. But at the same time, it's like I went carnivore and my cholesterol went up a little bit. And the doctor
Yep.
was like, well, I'm not going to put you on a statin. And I said, I wouldn't take it if you gave it to me anyway. Like,
Right.
I exercise 5 to 6 days a week. I cold plunge, I sauna almost every day. I'm fine. Like, my BMI is good. My weight is good. All my levels are good. My cholesterol was like 195, and he was like, and
No,
I'm like,
you're
but
fine.
you're fat. What are we doing?
That's right. 195 is not a problem. Most people don't understand that high cholesterol is associated with longer life and lower mortality until you get like way the hell out on the edge. 195 is at a sweet spot of the curve for longevity. When you talk, if you're not in ketosis, if you're not doing a ketogenic diet and your cholesterol is getting to 350, 400, particularly your LDL cholesterol, then the mortality curve begins to come back down. For the most part, cholesterol is protective of your health. But the one you really want to watch is the triglyceride to HDL ratio. When your triglycerides are high and your HDL is low, that indicates insulin resistance. Insulin resistance means you got too much insulin in your body. You're experiencing, or you might be experiencing, high glucose, what Reynolds calls excursions, brief periods of spikes that can glycate your proteins, glycate your hemoglobin, glycate your LDL cholesterol, weaponizing it against your cardiovascular system. It is the management of insulin, not cholesterol, but cholesterol is so much easier to measure. The physicians grab that and they start talking about like 195 might be too high. Hell no, Alex, you're doing great.
Yeah, my grandmother's was 300 and she lived till she was 97. Like, she was a Southern cook. She ate animal fat, lard, beef fat. She lived a long time, and I don't know that she was on any statins or blood pressure medication. And I'm a firm believer that most of these things, other than like type 1 diabetes, they're pretty reversible with a little bit of effort. And
Correct.
my wife and I were talking about this last night. It's crazy that we live in the country that we live in with the most resources, the most opportunity. We consume 80% of the world's pharmaceuticals, and we're one of the unhealthiest countries, and one of the worst educated countries. And yet we have boundless resources and opportunities. And then, we were talking about the whole SNAP situation and what's going on with that. And I know that I'm going to get myself in hot water, but you can order Uber Eats and DoorDash with your SNAP card.
Yeah.
I know there are people that need that. I know there are disabled veterans. I know there are people that cannot drive, cannot leave, and I get that. But I'm also one of those guys that thinks that the EBT card, the SNAP benefits, should really work along the outsides of the grocery store and not the middle sections, because the people with the least in this country are generally the unhealthiest. And that stems from the food they purchase, the choices they make. And when you're allowed to use that money on bags of chips and Doritos and soda and frozen meals, you're getting high preservatives, high sodium, high calories, little protein. And I know they're delicious. I get it. But so is ground beef, and so are eggs, and so is yogurt, and so are peppers, and so are carrots and onions and garlic and potatoes and all those things. And that benefits farmers. But bag of Doritos doesn't benefit any farmers or land workers. It benefits Kellogg's
Frito-Lay.
or
Yep.
whoever owns that. And so I'm a big believer that also food is brain fuel. It gets kids ready to absorb whatever information they're going to go into their sports or schools or whatever. And, eggs are a tremendous provider of brain support and protein for young kids that are going to school. My kids eat eggs every morning before they go to school. Now, they're not the smartest kids, but
they need all the eggs they can get.
The eggs will unlock that door. I'm hopeful.
Well, there's two things going on. The first one is it's so easy to hurl the moral accusations at the people on Snap, to say they're making the bad choices. And I'm not going to defend poor food choices, but I think those moral accusations are misdirected. It is the corporations that lobby. SNAP is supposed to be about nutrition. That's what the N stands for in the SNAP program. So why is Coca-Cola, why are these like ultra processed food companies lobbying Congress to say, well, you got to let people buy their 2-liter bottle of Coke using their SNAP? Because that is a government welfare program. Yep. It's not organized around the health of the poor people. It's organized around the financial health of the shareholders and the ultra processed food companies. Yep. Of course, we should get like Coke and ultra processed foods, high carbohydrate, anything that comes in an aluminum foil package. There's no season of Dorito, Of course, we should remove all of those from the SNAP program, because when we stop subsidizing the sugar foods, the corn syrup, when we stop subsidizing these massive crops that the food processing companies are profiting off of, then the poor people will find it so much easier to get more nutrition out of the SNAP dollars that they've got. Yeah, they'll start 100%. Shopping on the outside, because we could subsidize eggs, we could subsidize yogurt, we could subsidize the things that are good for you. We don't. One of the reasons that we don't is because our ag policies were set during the Nixon administration as an instrument of the Cold War. China was starving. Right now, Trump is meeting Z, right? And Trump, what was he born in 1946? I forget how old Z, the Chinese leader, is, but every single leader of the CCP in China lived through the famines as a child. Well, Nixon wanted to leverage China as not an ally necessarily, but prevent them from allying with the Soviet Union. So Nixon's like, what are we going to do? We're going to make all of this food. We're going to make food cheap and abundant. We're going to trade with China so that we can feed their people and keep them from allying with the Soviet Union. He put these agricultural policies in place that prohibited sugar imports from Cuba because they were a Soviet ally, that subsidized corn so that we could export it to the countries as an instrument of foreign policy. The only problem is the Cold War's over. We did it. We won. Yeah, right. And could maybe now we eat some healthy food instead of these cheap subsidized crops, as if we're still trying to defeat the Soviet Union. So those are the two things. One is the moral accusations are going in the wrong direction. Point those at the ultra processed food companies. And two is the only reason we haven't dismantled those Nixon era agricultural policies is because they are making those ultra processed food companies rich. It's not the farmers who are getting rich. It's the intermediaries.
I mean, they got the hardest job. They make the least amount of dollars. The land is expensive. Their equipment is expensive. Crops are expensive. Cattle are expensive. Everything's expensive. Then they get paid pennies and then they get shafted. And don't even get me started on school lunches at kids' public schools. I mean, they made pizza a vegetable so they could make it okay to sell pizza every day. Name one ingredient on a pizza that's a vegetable.
The ketchup they put on the crust.
That's a fruit. A tomato's a fruit. Nothing about a pizza is a vegetable. And I mean, when schools' budget gets cut, the first thing they cut is the food program.
Yep.
And they're serving, potatoes that look like smiley faces that are deep fried in canola oil. There's no like real healthy, fresh options. And there's actually a chef, I can't remember his name, Dave, something. I think he's in New York. He used to work at Noma, which for a long time was the #1 restaurant in the world.
Yeah.
And I think he started a company, it might be called Brigade, but they actually hire actual chefs from real restaurants to go take over a school's food system. And they're making fresh food every day for their students. And everybody's going to benefit. The local farmers will benefit. I mean, we have enough farmland in Tennessee where we could actively partner with them to bring in food for the schools. They would get paid for their crops. They would get paid for their work. The cafeteria workers could feel good about what they're making. They're not just using a knife to open a bag and boil it in water or put it in a steamer. And the kids are getting real protein, real carbs, real fruit, real ingredients put in their body instead of just something in a cardboard box that was slapped into an oven for 45 minutes to warm it up. It's crazy.
Now you got French toast sticks. Delicious.
They are delicious. They are, with that syrup that's made from corn syrup instead of maple syrup.
Exactly right. Well, there's two obstacles to that. The first one is I can't figure out how Archer Daniels Midland is going to make any money off your new school lunch program, Alex. So that's not going to right. And the second one is it does take knowledge. The food science, which is now a degree, like you can get a food science degree at Purdue or someplace like this. The food scientists, they go to work for the ultra processed, they go to work for Frito-Lay and they say, how can we make a Dorito more addictive? How can we make it hyper palatable so that you can't possibly put the bag down? And then when you look into that empty bag and you're like, oh, damn, I feel terrible about I ate the whole damn bag. And yet I feel, despite my shame, I want one more chip.
And I'm not full. I'm not satisfied.
Right? Yep. That food has been purposely engineered by food science to become addictive, not to be healthy. So what's amazing to me is that you need knowledge to run a cafeteria like that. You need knowledge of food, but it's not necessarily the food science that the Frito-Lay people are using. It's the knowledge that you have. You say, this is what goes with this. This is what's in season here. This is how we organize these ingredients. And when I say, what should you serve at an ice bath party? And your intuition instantly goes to, well, these are some of the warm foods, the foods that have a reputation of being hot. And I'm like, you know what? I got like scientific journal articles on this, how, wasabi and horseradish is thermogenic. It's not just called hot because it's spicy. It's hot because it warms your core body temperature. You have the knowledge of how to feed people. And I think for the most part, it's been lost and intentionally because now the ultra processed food companies are saying you don't need to know that. You don't need to know what a vegetable is. You don't need to know what the seasons are. You just rip open the foil wrap. Maybe you put it in the microwave. Now you're good to go. You can spend the rest of your time, binge watching Netflix or whatever turns you on.
I got this image of a farmer like tilling his ground and just Cool Ranch Doritos coming up out of the dirt.
How's the Dorito crop coming in this year?
Man, we did well this season. Thank God for the rain. We got thousands of bags of Cool Ranch Doritos to sell this year. It's just so backwards. And don't get me wrong, I love a Dorito. I love a Dorito because they are delicious. They're made to be delicious. And Doritos every now and then, I get it completely. But when you're living off of bologna and American cheese and white bread that's made from God knows what that can last.
I'm not sure God really knows.
I mean, real bread doesn't last 3 weeks in a pantry. Right. You're lucky to get 5 to 7 days if you don't refrigerate it or freeze it. But it's when we've taken, and I have friends that have gluten issues in America. They're celiac in America. But they go to Paris or Italy or Amsterdam and they'll walk around and eat every baguette, every croissant, every pasta, and every pizza. They won't gain any weight. They won't feel bad. They won't have any outbreaks, and they have energy. And it's what we've done to our food system in America to make more money, to make them drought resistant, monocrop agriculture. Monsanto has basically poisoned everything that we've got, removed all the macro and micronutrients from grain and wheat, just so we can grow more of it in a smaller bunch. And it doesn't matter if it rains for 3 months, the wheat will still be there, but
Correct.
there's nothing nutritive inside of it at all. It's
There's
crazy.
it's so bad that we are adding things to our flour in America to try and make up for the deficit of nutrients. But the things that we're adding aren't doing the job. Folic acid is one example. It's in all the bread and all the flour in America, and it's not the natural form of folate that your body can actually absorb and that your
Right.
body needs. It's a synthetic form where if you get too much, it becomes toxic. We had borate to bread in America. Oh, that helps it rise and helps it make more efficient. It's not good for the body. And despite what Monsanto says, that glyphosate residue that's in our flour is going to ruin your gut microbiome. It might
Yep.
not be toxic to a rat in a short-term test inside a lab, and that's got nothing to do with anything. It does not belong in your intestinal tract, destroying your microbiome and giving you invented new diseases like irritable bowel syndrome that never existed when we were kids, but somehow now have to be treated.
Yeah. Why do I have to poop so bad after I eat Olive Garden? Well, I don't know. How much of what you
Unlimited pasta bowl?
actually real? And then, even with organic farming, if you're next to a standard farm with runoff and spill off and rain and pollution and wind, you're still getting overspray from whatever the farm next door sprayed.
Correct. You don't
There's
have a
really
choice.
no checks and balances for organic farms. It just says organic, and you want to believe it, but I've never been a big fan of organic buying at grocery stores because I don't know. To me, it's a bait and switch. I don't really know. I think it's more important to know who you're buying from and where you're buying it from versus what it's labeled as at the store. If it's still got a sticker on the bottom of it, just because it has a 4 on the sticker instead of a 9, it's still covered in wax. It's still covered in whatever. The tomatoes were still gassed to make them look red. They look like crap. They eat terrible. But if you go to the local farmer's market, you at least got an idea of who you're supporting, what you're buying, and it's usually more peak season, so it's going to taste better.
Speaking as a chef, you're right. I can't disagree with you. But I know people who live in urban areas and they've made a big difference. Like I've switched to organic. They don't know the farmers. They don't know what to look at the farmer's market. Or they do go to the farmer's market and half the stuff is just brought up from Mexico anyway. Like they don't
I know.
know. Yeah.
We got that here.
Yeah, well, you live in an area where you can get to know where your food comes from. You can
Right.
meet the farmers. You can visit the fields. I did this when I lived in Indiana, and it makes you feel so much better when you're eating what your friends have produced and you know it's in season. But not everybody can do that.
That is true. I 100% agree with that. But if you can, it would be beneficial for yourself, your family, and the farmer that is your neighbor from 20 miles away. I mean, I don't subscribe to buying hyper local stuff. I don't think it has to be, grown in the same zip code that I live in, but you can choose where you get your beef, where you get your chicken. You can buy Springer Mountain Farm versus going to Kroger or Publix and getting whatever Tyson they have. There's a difference in the way the animals are raised, cared for, what they're putting in their feed, the antibiotics they're given, the growth hormones, etc. I mean, there are workarounds, but a lot of times it is a little bit more expensive, and right now everything's expensive and money's tight for everybody. So I totally get it, but it's, you get to vote with your dollars.
Yep.
So if you don't want these things to exist, stop buying them. At some point, they'll figure it out. We're removing red 40 and all that stuff, but Canada's got the same Fruit Loops, but without all the dyes in it, and it's made by the same company that we buy it from, but it's just so much worse for us.
I'm not advocating for artificial food dyes, but it's still a marshmallow, right? Like, I mean, what difference does it make? What colored the damn marshmallow?
Just make it white. Just make it a white marshmallow. It doesn't have to have rainbow stripes on it. It'll still eat the same. I mean, even the UK, like their Skittles, they're dyed with beet juice and watermelon juice and blueberry juice and those extracts, and it's still candy, but it's at least it's a little bit better for you and not quite as toxic as ingesting the dyes and the preservatives that we put in over here. We've just found a way, it's American ingenuity. We found a way to make it cheaper, tastier, and more profitable.
I got one more thing I want to ask you.
Fire away.
Before Hell's Kitchen, before you started running restaurants and planning menus and things like that, you taught high school.
Yeah, 3 years.
Right? What do kids need to know about food and its preparation that they're not getting if they're not in your class?
Oh man, that's such a loaded question. I don't, we've gotten so disconnected from the art of cooking. I don't know how many grandmothers are still spending time with their grandchildren in a kitchen at a young age and helping them make Sunday dinners or Saturday breakfasts or whatever. I don't know that it exists anymore. It did when I was a kid, but that was the 80s. And I think, and I still think this today, I would love to see a major reform in high school education. I think it's weird. I don't agree with the testing. I don't agree with all the classes they have to take. For the longest time when we were kids, we were told you're never going to have a calculator in your pocket, so you got to learn how to do these algebraic equations. Well, I can do a pretty damn hard algebraic equation in like 2 seconds on my phone. But I think the two most important classes that you can take in high school are personal finance and culinary arts, because you're always going to need to know how to manage your money, balance your checkbook, and understand fiscal responsibility. And you need to learn how to cook and prepare food on a budget that is healthy and full of nutrients for your family. Everything else can kind of be figured out, but you really can't Google yourself a fresh meal. And reading recipes is hard if you've never cooked. Understanding cooking terminology, if you're reading a recipe and it's talking about a 1/4 inch dice on an onion and then sweat this, saute this, use this oil, if you're not familiar with cooking, that's very daunting. It's very,
like a foreign language.
Yeah, you're like, I don't know how to saute, braise, slow cook, whatever. And if you've never been, you only know what you've been exposed to. So if you don't expose yourself to that knowledge, you're not going to feel comfortable with it doing it at home. And so learning how to balance your budget, learning how to buy nutritious food and prep it yourself at your home, you'll save tons of money by cooking your own food. You know everything that's going into your food. There's no questionable substances. There's no ingredient list that's 40 items long, half of them with 13 consonants in a row that you can't pronounce. You know what's going in your food. If you make fried eggs for breakfast and have some yogurt and a little buttered piece of sourdough with some avocado, that is a great balanced breakfast. Great protein dense, healthy fats, good probiotics, and a little bit of carbs for some energy out the door, versus going to wherever and spending $19 on the same thing that you just made at home for $2.50. And you save money. It's healthy. I just think we're so disconnected especially with Uber Eats and DoorDash. I mean, now you don't even have to put in any effort to go get food.
Yeah.
They'll literally drop it off at your house when it's raining. Yeah. You've paid 30 or 40% more, but the accessibility has never been better. I mean, you can just be sitting on your couch watching Netflix and you'll have something from Buffalo Wild Wings in 24 minutes at your door.
So I think I see where you're going here. If there's a school or a school district that is struggling, they're like, should we run AP chemistry or should we run culinary arts? You're saying the AP Chem class will allow them to pronounce the ingredients on their ultra processed foods, but the
Yeah.
culinary arts class will teach them how to feed themselves without that.
Well, also, like the kids that I had for 3 years, they loved coming to my class. Like cooking it's an art, but it uses something inside of you. When you make a dish from scratch to finish, there's a little bit of you in that, and that's why any sort of critique kind of hurts. If you get your AP chemistry test back and you got a C, you're like, I could have done better, I guess. But if you give your dish to someone, they say this tastes like shit, part of you is like crushed. You're like, oh God, it's overcooked. It's not salted enough. It's just like you'll carry that all day long. But the kids, they got to eat real food. They were in my class 2 hours a day. It's 10 o'clock in the morning and we're making bison burgers or New York strips, or we're breaking down a whole fish. And I'm showing them how to make this food that's full of flavor and full of nutrients. That's great. I'm a big believer in some classes need to exist. We need English. I believe in reading. I believe in being able to comprehend what you're reading and retain what you're reading. I believe math up to a certain level should be mandatory. I think after you start adding letters to math, let some smart kid choose that class, because never in my day do I have to go, I've got 300 people I'm doing this event for. Chicken 4X plus 6Y equals 30,000 wings. That never happens. Science, I think it matters. I think biology matters. I think some basic chemistry matters. Anything past that, you can choose your path. History matters to a certain extent, so we can learn from the past. We don't repeat the mistakes, and we need to know where we came from, and we need to understand the things that happened to got us to where we are. But like everything else, and I think PE should be mandatory.
Absolutely.
45 minutes every day. But everything else, I think if you're into science, you can choose to go down the science path. I think if you're into math, you can go down the math path. I think if you're into history and philosophy, you can go down those paths. But I think the high school that I worked at, we had a 98.6% graduation rate.
Wow.
Our college readiness rate was 22%.
Oh, my land.
We graduated everyone because that's how schools get funding. You have a high graduation rate. That means your teachers are doing well. That means the school is doing well, but they're really not ready. Mm-hmm. But at third grade, they're drawing the line saying, if you can't pass the standardized Tennessee test, right, we're going to hold you back. Yeah. So you're going to hold back a third grader, but you won't hold back a junior or senior in high school. And we're not setting them up for success. They don't understand buying real estate, renting real estate, doing taxes, having a job interview, social skills. I pitched a class to our administration that was called Life 101. It was going to be myself and the personal finance instructor, who was also one of the football coaches. We were going to do it in the auditorium, almost like an open forum class. Yeah. But we're going to talk about life, how to change a tire, how to change your oil, how to write a resume, renting versus buying. And then we would bring in people from all these different fields to spark interest in all these, almost like a year-long career day. Today, we've got a veterinarian. Today, we've got someone from SpaceX. Today, we've got a real estate agent. Today, we've got an accountant. Why do you do what you do? Why do you love what you do? How do you help people with what you do? But give these kids an introduction into the real world, that they're not in this protected bubble, that they think when they leave, they're immediately going to get a job making $65,000 a year for having zero skills or education in the subject. But they're so detached from reality. I mean, my last year, I asked all my students what they were going to do for a living. This one kid was like, I already got a job. I'm making $55,000 a year working in the stock room at Nissan. I was like, they're going to pay an 18-year-old kid $55,000 to move batteries from this box to that shelf? There's no way. And turns out he didn't get paid that. He got paid like $27,000.
Yep.
But
that sounds right. And they'll replace him with a robot tomorrow.
you got to learn about life. And sometimes if the parents aren't teaching you at home about the real world, it's much tougher to navigate if you don't have the skills that you need to equip to handle the pressures of society, the pressures of the financial world. It's overwhelming if you don't know what you're doing. And if you don't have good guidance and teachers that are helping you learn how to navigate this, you're going to be really confused and you're going to be behind. That's just my little,
saw a lot of that.
My little soapbox. Yeah.
I teach engineering. And so my students are all about the math and science. You know, they've made their choice to go down that path. They probably want to avoid English and right. They feel about reading and writing like you feel about algebra, you know?
Yeah.
And it's fine for the most part. They're told there really are good jobs waiting for them when they finish their degree. But the number one problem right now is the unemployment rate among new computer science graduates. It's like 30-something%. And this is because artificial intelligence is replacing the people that used to get hired as entry-level programmers. So all these kids we told them, hey, learn to code. Remember when that was like a thing?
Yeah, like 2 years ago, and now it's gone.
Exactly right. And they still don't know how to cook breakfast.
So now they're unemployed and they still can't fry an egg.
That's right.
Golly. Yeah, I mean, it's tricky out there. I mean, AI is, what Amazon's replacing, letting go 40,000 people. Yep. UPS is letting go like 12 to 15,000 people. It is inevitable what's coming. I mean, it's terrifying because what are all these people going to do for work? I mean, you got Waymos driving all over the place in Phoenix. Soon enough, that'll be taking over Uber and Lyft.
Correct. And then there'll be no more taxi jobs. A CDL will no longer be, a route to a high-paying, although difficult job, because we won't need those long-haul truckers anymore. We're just going to load up the robot, and it's going to go from point to point. Like the world is changing in ways that our children are probably not prepared for.
100%. And I got a 10 and 8-year-old, and they can't discern what's real and what's not on YouTube or what they see on the internet. AI is so good. You can't tell what's real. You don't know who's lying to you. You don't know who's a grifter and who's not. It's hard. I mean, hell, I'm 44 and sometimes I can't tell what I'm looking at, if that's real, if that's computer generated. You just don't know. And there's too many people.
It's embarrassing when someone points out to you that thing, that amazing dog video that you saw, and they're like, yeah, that never actually happened,
It's somebody sitting on his MacBook for 45 minutes, just cranked out this video. It's weird, man. I mean, I'm just trying to raise humans that love each other, love themselves, and want to put the work in to get some results. And that's really all it comes down to. I mean, some things AI won't be able to replace, but some things they can very easily. I mean, my wife's job, she's been at State Farm for 15 years. How long is it going to be before they can run all those claims that she has to go through an AI system, and then they can brand them and sign them off and put it in whatever situation they need to.
Your kids ever get into the ice bath?
My youngest does. He likes it. My oldest is no. That's like punishment for him.
There's something about it. You get in there, it's hard, it's painful, and then you feel a sense of accomplishment and pride when you're done. There's something about it that makes it easier to do other hard, painful things or hear criticism from other people that would ordinarily be like, oh, no. You're like, now you can shrug it off.
Yeah, I mean, I go out there and I stare at it for like 8 to 10 minutes every morning. And I pace back and forth and I'm like, I know what's coming. It only sucks for like 30 seconds. After that, you settle in. My youngest loves it. My wife has gotten in once. She told me she'd get in all summer. Nope. But it is, but also like doing hard things, going to the gym, ice bath, sauna, those things lengthen my fuse to what I can handle. And if I don't do those things for 2 or 3 days, I mean, I notice a huge difference in my personality, how I'm handling things, the amount of stress I can endure. Like, I just don't feel good if I skip those things because they've become a natural part of my routine. And I mean, you get done with them, no matter if you wake up tired, didn't get enough, only got 5 hours of sleep, somehow doing those things that requires energy gives you more energy once you're done with them.
Right.
You truly feel better when you're finished.
Yep.
And it sucks going through it, but it's 3 minutes of pain and sacrifice for a rest of the day of feeling good.
Have you ever regretted an ice bath?
No,
Me either.
no. I mean, immediately while I was in it, I was like,
The first
oh.
15 seconds, what am I doing?
But when I get out, I'm always like, yeah, let's go. Like I always feel better afterwards. I've never been like, man, that sucked. I need to take a nap. That's never happened.
This is great. Thanks for talking it through with me.
My pleasure.
I'm going to let you know how this ice bath party idea comes. I'm going to serve a lot of horseradish and ginger.
Just a bowl of horseradish, just that, and some plastic spoons. Just eat horseradish.
You think you're cold?
You won't have any sinus problems, that's for sure.
That's
People
true.
knotting everywhere. Well, if you need some assistance, Southwest flies to Phoenix.
When you're here, good. Then we'll do it up. We'll make the ginger horseradish nasal clearing warm you up after the ice bath shot, and
It'll
we'll
do
see
it.
how it goes.
It'll do it.